You've been told that forgetting names is a sign of carelessness, a weak memory, or even disrespect. But what if that's completely wrong? What if the real reason has nothing to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how your mind protects you? Think about it. You meet someone new, they say their name, you nod, you smile, and seconds later, it's gone. Not because you didn't hear it, but because something inside you didn't hold on to it. And then comes the awkward moment, the hesitation, the silent panic of hoping their name comes up again before you have to ask. It feels small, almost embarrassing, but it happens more often than people admit. In conversations, in classrooms, at work, at social events, you remember faces, you remember stories, you remember how someone made you feel, but their name, it slips through your fingers like it was never there. And you start to wonder, what does this say about me? The truth is, your brain is not designed to remember everything. It is designed to filter, to prioritize, to decide what matters and what doesn't, often in ways you don't consciously control. When someone introduces themselves, their name is just a sound, a label with no emotional weight yet. Your mind is busy doing something else. It's analyzing their tone, their body language, the environment, how you're being perceived, what you should say next. In that moment, your attention is divided. And attention is the gatekeeper of memory. If your focus isn't fully there, the information never truly enters your memory system. It's not forgotten. It was never deeply stored in the first place. But there's something deeper happening beneath the surface. For some people, forgetting names is tied to a subtle form of social anxiety. Not the obvious kind, not the kind that stops you from speaking, but the quiet kind that makes you overthink. You're not just meeting a person, you're evaluating yourself through their eyes. Am I coming across well? Do I sound confident? Should I say more? And while your mind is caught in this internal loop, the name disappears. Not because it's unimportant, but because your brain is trying to protect your social image. It prioritizes survival over detail. Then there are those whose minds are constantly active, always moving, always thinking. Their thoughts don't stay still. They jump ahead, connect ideas, imagine possibilities. When someone says their name, it's just one of many inputs competing for attention. And in a fast-moving mind, small details often get lost. Not because they lack intelligence, but because their cognitive energy is spread across too many directions at once. There's also the emotional factor. People who are highly empathetic often focus more on feelings than facts. When they meet someone, they don't just register a name, they absorb the energy, the mood, the subtle emotional signals. They remember how the interaction felt, whether it was warm, tense, genuine, or forced. The name becomes secondary, almost irrelevant compared to the emotional experience. And so it fades. And sometimes, it's even simpler than that. Familiarity creates memory, but names are often abstract. If you don't connect a name to a story, a repeated interaction, or a meaningful moment, your brain doesn't see a reason to keep it. It lets it go, quietly, effortlessly. But here's where everything changes. What if forgetting names isn't a flaw, but a reflection of how your mind chooses meaning? What if it reveals not what you lack, but what you prioritize? Because the same person who forgets names might remember the smallest emotional detail about someone, the way they laughed, the way their voice softened when they spoke about something important. The exact moment a conversation shifted. That's not forgetfulness, that's selective awareness. So maybe the question isn't, why do I forget names? Maybe the real question is, what is my mind choosing to remember instead? Once you see it this way, the problem begins to look different. It's not just about memory anymore. It's about attention, emotion, and meaning. Because your brain is always asking one silent question: does this matter to me right now? And if the answer is unclear, it moves on. But here's the interesting part. This pattern can be changed. Not by forcing your memory to work harder, but by changing how you relate to the moment itself. The first shift is simple but powerful. Slow down your attention. When someone tells you their name, pause internally, just for a second. Let it land. Repeat it in your mind. Not mechanically, but with intention. Because memory is not about repetition alone. It's about presence. If you're truly there, in that moment, the name stops being just a sound. It becomes part of a real interaction. And that changes how your brain stores it. The second shift is about connection. Names become easier to remember when they are tied to something meaningful. A face, a detail, a feeling. You might notice something unique about the person. The way they speak. Something they mentioned. Even something as simple as the context of where you met. Your brain loves patterns. It remembers relationships between things, not isolated information. So instead of trying to memorize a name, connect it. Let it attach to something real. And the third shift is more subtle. Reduce the pressure you place on yourself in social situations. Because the more you try to get it right, the more your mind splits its attention. You start monitoring yourself instead of experiencing the moment, and that's when memory fails. But when you let go of that pressure, when you allow yourself to simply be present without overanalyzing, your mind becomes clearer, more focused, more receptive. But even with these changes, you may still forget names sometimes, and that's okay. Because memory is not a perfect system. It's a human one. Imperfect, selective, alive. The goal is not to remember everything. It's to understand how your mind works and to work with it, not against it. And maybe there's something deeper here, something worth reflecting on. In a world where people often feel unseen, what matters more? Remembering someone's name or remembering who they are? The way they think, the way they feel, the way they exist in the world. Because anyone can memorize a label, but not everyone truly pays attention. So, if you forget names, don't rush to judge yourself. Instead, observe yourself. Notice where your attention goes. Notice what your mind holds on to. Because that reveals something important about you, about how you experience the world, about what you value, even without realizing it. And in the end, memory is not just about storing information. It's about meaning. It's about what stays with you when the moment has passed. So the next time a name slips away, don't just see it as something lost. See it as a clue, a quiet signal pointing you toward how your mind really works. And maybe, just maybe, that understanding matters far more than any name you could remember. So, the next time a name slips away, don't judge yourself. Notice where your attention goes, what your mind chooses to hold on to. Memory is not about perfection, it's about meaning. The names you forget may reveal more about what you value, feel, and truly notice in the world. Embrace this insight and let it guide you toward deeper awareness, presence, and understanding of yourself and others.